Recording. Okay. Well, welcome again. So we'll start the session. As I said, the focus today on discussion will be on loving kindness, but power through loving kindness. And we will be watching Master Choa's video, which was released on the full moon day. I don't think we have discussed the importance of full moon day today, but we'll probably do it in a different session. But the thing to note is full moon is a day of great opportunity, and to the amount of energy on this particular day is magnified. And as we have been discussing, we're always looking for a more efficient way of doing meditation so that we can pretty much max out the benefits that it brings us. So like meditating in a group of people like we've got together, that's a very good idea to do that. And there are certain days in a month which are much more, let's say, charged up with energy. And probably the best days to meditate on, definitely days where we should not skip meditations. So those will be the full moon days. Master Hector tells some billion stories around full moon, so I would highly recommend that you guys join them more for esoteric studies, but sometimes stories as well. Like Master Choa used to organize full moon meditations, and they used to be fun, apparently. He used to have dinner before meditation and invite people to have dinner, have a good time, and then meditate. He had to switch the order because people will have dinner and then disappear and not stay back for meditation. But it was something which was encouraged, and there's a huge reason for that. There are many reasons for that, and we'll come to these in some other time. And I'll probably encourage you guys to go and listen to Master Ko, Master Hector on that. But the important thing which I would want you all to remember is this is a day where we can amplify our spiritual practice. Hence, a good idea to meditate. On a practical side of it, Institute of Inner Studies on their website, globalplanichealing.com, they release Master Choa's video every full moon. So one bit of video is released, which I'm not sure how much of you appreciate, but for people like me who have been in pranic healing and Anartic Yoga for some time, we remember that to watch Master Choa's video, you had to go to a retreat. That was the only way you would ever get to see a video. There were no online videos, there was nothing available, so you had to wait for a year. And at that time, retreats were quite few. Uh, so we had to go to a retreat once in a year. I was in India at that time. So retreats were in January, and then you wait for the next one to see next set of videos. So it's a privilege. We're lucky that now online it is available. So we'll use one of those videos. Then we will be having a short discussion on the same topic, loving kindness. And as always, we will we will use Master Choa's books to do that. Achieving Oneness with the Higher Soul. We will use it, but we'll use a lot more of Golden Lotus Sutras, the one on compassionate objectivity. This little book is quotes by Master Choa, which have been put together from various lectures that he conducted all over the world. And these are brilliant one-liners and reminders. And as you will see in this video, he had the ability of passing on a lot more information and energy in minimal amount of words. He would not be talking on and on like people like me. So that's always a privilege. So on that note, we'll start with that lecture and then continue. So let me pause the recording. People watching the recording, you gotta go and watch the video on the website. Okay. Uh, I hope you enjoyed the video. More importantly, I hope you took, if, well, go back to this video. There was a lot of mention of multiple things there. And as I was telling before we started the video is available on Global Pranic Healing website. It is going to be available till, I think they normally release it for a week. Somebody in the group has posted it in our, hold on. I can hear Twin has meditation in my ears. Just one second. Sorry, the video was still playing in the background and you can't hear it, but I can hear it. So it was the meditation which had started. Okay. So the discussion was on loving kindness, right? This is something that we have been covering over the last few days. And Master Chua specifically mentioned about loving kindness on multiple levels, right? He talked about inaction. There was a mention of what is loving kindness in action. Example was healing. Verbally, he talked about compliments. He talked about no criticism, no judgments. Two other things. What are the two things? We can see, hey, we have somebody else on the meditation now. That's great. What else did he talk about? He talked about loving kindness and non-injury mentally. He talked about blessing, using mental power to actually practice loving kindness. He gave a pretty decent talk on tithing and service. So there are so many topics that were covered within that video. Was about 10 minutes. And that's what I meant. Master Choa had this gift of passing on the right information in the least amount of word, taking least amount of time. So we are not going to touch upon all of those topics. We will stick to some of it, and we'll refer to Master's book, Compassionate Objectivity. There are a couple of things which are important on the virtue of loving kindness that we did not cover 2, 3 weeks ago when we discussed it. So I want to highlight that as well as part of what we did today. So I'm on page number 26. Okay. Real love makes you see things as they are. You have to love, patience, and tolerance. Where there is love, there will be stillness and peace. Generate one good thought a day about a person you love, you do not like. When you have love, you see people like children. They cannot help themselves. So you feel more compassion. So this is a direct example of how do we practice loving kindness on a mental level? Generate one good thought about a person you do not like. It's tricky, it's difficult, but it is something that we need to do and train ourselves to do. Why is it important to do that? Because we are trying to consciously practice loving kindness on a mental level. If you remember our discussion on the golden rules of yang and yin, our intention, why are we doing everything that we are doing, right? If you go back, we are talking about character building. The reason why character building is important, especially for people who are practicing meditation, is because a tremendous amount of energy comes down in meditations, and it amplifies all our qualities, good and bad. So what we're trying to do is use the framework given by Master Choa Kok Sui of five virtues and focus a lot more on the yang aspects of it, which means do wholesome things, and avoid the yin aspects of it, which is do not do things which are wrong. If you notice Master Choa's language, that is typically he always talks about doing the wholesome thing. He never talks about, well, not never, but he does not talk that much about what is right and wrong, because right and wrong can be different for different people, but we can all kind of agree on what a wholesome thing is. So generating a positive thought for somebody is a wholesome thing to do. And that's on the mental level. On physical level, we talked about healing. On verbal level, when you say what you must say must be kind. Words are like water. If you say the right words, they have a nurturing effect. First, master verbal nonviolence and then master the nonviolence of thought. Again, uh, it is kind of obvious, but if you look at most of us, would not have a tendency of physical violence. We would not be in a place where we would physically be going about hurting people. But keep in mind, physical violence is not limited to that. Banging your door, banging a desk, throwing things, these are all parts of physical violence. So, but they're easy to avoid because we're able to stop ourselves. The next bit is verbal. Saying nasty things, mean things, angry things is something that most of us are able to avoid on most occasions. Not all occasions. I'm pretty sure we all lose our calm, composure, and we say things that we regret. Sometimes we justify them to ourselves that no, this had to be said. But we know when it was necessary, when it was not. And then once we have done that, that's when for me, the hardest part comes, which is mental nonviolence. Not criticizing even in your head, not thinking about bad things, not focusing on the bad things. And that is something that we are encouraged to practice. Once we do that, once we're able to do that, then comes generating good thoughts. So can we actually generate good thoughts, kind thoughts, loving thoughts? May the person that who's really annoying us, may they be blessed with love, with peace, with good health, happiness, prosperity, success, growth. Think of these things. And sometimes, as I was mentioning and emphasizing, we have to train ourselves to do that. That's why sometimes it's nice to write these words. Okay, this is what I have to bless the person with. Because when I think of the person, these are not the thoughts that come to my mind. And that's okay. We have to learn who we are. We have to accept it and move forward. This is a training for us. Uh, a lot of people like to wait that I will do it when I feel like doing it. That's an emotional response. We need to move away from that, and we need to train ourselves to go ahead and actually do this. So this is one thing which is very, very important, and something that we need to keep in our mind. That's These are things that we consciously need to do. Remember, the the guidance is to practice loving kindness. The act of practice is a conscious effort to do something. So it is not about feel loving kindness. It is not about imagine loving kindness. It is about practicing it. And these books, these talks, these are super, super helpful in giving us what I keep calling a framework. There are many ways of doing it, I'm sure. This resonates with most of us, so we are here. And it's a very, very good place to start. So you can pick the book and say, okay, I need to do this. Well, how do I practice it? Okay, generate a loving thought. Sit down. What is a loving thought? Think about the loving thought. Think about the person. Correlate it. Just do the exercise. Over a period of time, it becomes easier. It does. I can tell you from my experience, it does become easier. But anybody who claims to say, hey, I am able to do it like this, well, I'm very, very happy for them, but a lot of times I don't. I take it with a pinch of salt. It doesn't really happen that way. It doesn't happen that fast. And when we talk about forgiveness again, we'll talk about again levels of forgiveness where this is super important. It comes back. Yes. I'll continue with the book. Violence is unregulated use of force. What is to be avoided is excessive force. Again, emphasis on what is to be avoided is excessive force. Nobody's asking us to avoid force completely. And that is the last part which I want to focus on. That a lot of people believe being loving and kind and practicing loving kindness just softens you up and makes us, how do I put it? You become a doormat, you become a punching bag for others. So you're taking the blows, but you're not reacting. Why? Because I'm supposed to practice love and kindness. Okay, so you're gonna say, so other person is gonna say nasty things to me, be rude, mean, angry, and I have to take it and project love to them. That is not true. That is not what is being taught. That is not what is being asked of us. And it's very, very important to do that because sometimes loving kindness can then become an excuse to not do anything. Maybe sometimes we are scared, maybe we are afraid, maybe we just freeze to confront when confrontation is needed. A lot of us, including myself, do not want to have confrontations. It will be so much easier to just let it go. And in our minds, we say, that's loving kindness. I am practicing loving kindness, hence, I'm practicing my teacher's word. I was taught this thing, and I went to this place and I was given a framework. And one of those things was not to say nasty things, not to practice physical violence, not to have mental violence. Hence, I'm practicing that. But the one thing which we forget is, and when you will, well, some of you, when you get to Hatha Yoga and you study the virtues from that perspective, we are taught that the first responsibility is practicing loving kindness to oneself. So if you're just taking unwholesome behavior, hey, I'm proud of myself for using that word. I had a different word in my head. Uh, but if you're putting up with unwholesome behavior from somebody and just taking it in, keeping it all stuffed in, then for a second imagine that we are practicing all levels of physical, emotional, mental violence to ourselves. So we are not fooling anybody. We are not practicing the virtue. We are not actually trying to practice loving kindness actively. We are simply using it as an excuse to hide. That is not what's being taught. So there's a yang side and a yin side to loving kindness. Loving kindness is not always soft. It can be hard. Sometimes you must be severe out of kindness. So act if you need to act. How do we balance these two? We'll talk about this in a different talk when we talk about forgiveness and inner forgiveness and outer forgiveness. So teaser for future. Not sure next week, but future. And the final bit which I want to cover is injury can be done through inaction. Tolerating a wrongful deed is equivalent to injury through inaction. So, emphasis that please do not take loving kindness as a reason for not acting, as a reason for putting up with injustice or intolerant behavior. We have to act. That is important. That is loving kindness to ourselves, and sometimes that is the right expression. One of the best, Master Choa and all spiritual teachers, they're experts in giving one-liners, right? If you will see, what I think it was called, not by Master Choa, but somebody else, bumper sticker spirituality, where you have these one-liners which pass so much information. It's from a book. I'm forgetting the author, but it was beautiful. And I remember Master Choa in one of his videos, not this one, a different videos, he talked about it. Loving kindness in reality is mastery over power, which is a very different perspective and a very different way of looking at it. Because it's not about not having power, but it is about being aware of when to use it, how to use it, and when not to use it. So, and that to me is one of the best ways of looking at this virtue, because a lot of people go to the yang side of it. Let's do the good things, let's be kind. But they forget to focus on the fact that there's a yin side of it. And that is something for all of us to consider. So on that note, we'll take a pause. Any thoughts, any insights on the video or anything that I read, please, you're welcome to share. As always, I will not put anybody on the spot and ask questions, but it would be nice if anybody has anything to share. Not today? Okay. Maybe the dog is thinking something. No? All right. In that case, we will proceed with meditation. Please get yourselves ready for the meditation. Just close your eyes and just center yourself. When we say center ourselves, we effectively mean bring the attention back to where we are, our bodies, our emotions. If they are all over the place, just again, our thoughts. A good way to do this is just focus on your breath and do a few inhalation and exhalations. Let's do this together. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale.